this guy if they fired him the first time?
Well, I don't know Mr. Beatty. I don't really know much about him other than a bunch of tweets, none of which I like. The ones that I've seen anyway. I don't think from just reading those that he'll be confirmable for a long-term position. And I think his appointment, or at least it coming to light, is overshadowing what's a pretty big week for Marco Rubio as he makes his first trip to Central America and is really having a great deal of success. He had a great success in Panama. Now he's moved on to the Triangle countries. And Donald Trump, his tariff threat that everyone freaked out about just 24 hours ago, seemingly has brought Mexico and Canada to the table to achieve his foreign policy goals. So it's unfortunate there's this distraction today.
What do you think of the big achievement on Canada was here?
Well, I think, tariffs are useful, especially in the short term, to pull people into a longer term negotiating partner.
Now,
Canadians have.
Are you just saying it's a negotiating tactic here?
Well, it often is. It often is, unless the negotiations don't succeed, and then it can become a longer-term thing. I think in the case of Canada, it probably is a negotiating tactic. In the case of Mexico, we have to get their attention. We cannot do what we have to do on immigration without full cooperation and effort by the government of Mexico. It is essential that they crack down on the cartels, and it is essential that Canada crack down on the cartels as well, as they've tried to move some of their operations there. So I think this is off to a good start, and I think this other news is overshadowing it today.
Alyssa, the shutting down of USAID, it's not a huge part of the budget, but in terms of its influence overseas, the goodwill it engenders among a lot of people, that's been one of the big criticisms of it.
There's a lot we still need to learn more about. And I'll say this, conservatives, Republicans for a long time have been for cutting waste, fraud, abuse, looking into federal programs, looking at how we can streamline and shrink them. But I'm not sure that is what this is. Senator Bill Cassidy, a Republican, put out a statement saying he was unclear on whether PEPFAR was still receiving funds, one of the single most successful humanitarian organizations
last
in
I heard,
American
the PEPFAR
history.
computer programs had been shut down, and so life-saving HIV medication, which was actually even on the shelves in clinics overseas, can't even be distributed.
And so when you have somebody who sits on the help committee in the Senate not knowing basic information, that's very concerning. But more on America's global standing, the reason we have alliances, we have relationships, we have international aid is because we are the global superpower and we want to be countering China. If we pull out the rug from these allies, we pull back all our international aid, China will step into the void there. So for the successes that Brad points out, which I to some degree agree with, this is playing a very dangerous game that's opening territory for China to come and swoop in.
Van?
Oh, this is terrible. First of all,
but Alyssa, today,
hold on. This Van's talking, and then
we can brag on Marco Rubio. I'd be happy to do it, but I'm going to tell you right now, people are going to die in very large numbers around the world who are expecting the United States to live up to our promises to get them medicine, to get them help. And when that happens, people are going to remember that. There are people right now who have HIV who are alive only because the United States is making sure of that. Donald Trump says, we don't care. You go die. That's the message from the United States government. It is the wrong message to be sending, and it opens up the door for China and other people to say, at least we're a stable government who's not going to leave you out here to die. That's this is not an abstract conversation for people around the world.
That's not. No, Van, today Marco Rubio wrote congressional leaders to explain their moves on USAID and why they're moving it to the State Department.
No, he's specifically talking about HIV medication and PEPFAR.
Well, hold on just a second, though. The goal is to make sure the programs and the people administering them align with U.S. foreign policy goals. We started USAID in 1961 as a way to counter the Soviet Union's influence. Today, we need to use it to counter the Belt and Road Initiative as China.
But PEPFAR, which is what Van was talking about, was actually started by George W. Bush, and it saved 25 million lives over since that time.
PEPFAR.
Right.
PEPFAR is a great program, but there's no reason it shouldn't be run directly out of the State Department.
But if the medication, do you know anything about HIV medication? Because if you stop HIV medication, the virus flares back and it mutates. So if you have millions of people who are dependent on HIV medication.
I'm not arguing against PEPFAR.
Well, you seem to be, because you're avoiding answering any questions about it. Well, if it's shut down, do you think that's wise?
No, of course it's not wise. I'm not arguing against PEPFAR. I'm arguing that you can administer that out of the State Department, and we can make sure that all those programs align with our foreign policy goals. That's the objective here.
But I think the concern, by the way, is when senior senators can't get basic answers on, is PEPFAR still funded? What is getting out to where we've made commitments? And folding it to state, I don't think is a major issue that people have. It's more what is actually where's funding being stopped? Where are we not living up to our commitments?
Right. If the whole thing is let's hold everything for 90 days, let's reorganize, and who knows how long 90 days morphs into, with something like PEPFAR, the virus doesn't work that way.
Look, there's a smart way and a dumb way to do anything. I'm all for dealing with waste, fraud, and abuse, but when you just jerk the rug out from under literally millions of people around the world who are sick and who are dying, that is a dumb way to do it. It's the wrong way to do it, and there will be long-term
If you want China's Belt and Road Initiative to just conquer Africa, pull the rug out from the tens of millions of people who are relying on us for this help.
Hold on. Washington says this stuff all the time, though. They say don't change anything, don't look into anything. The audit of USAID last year faulted the agency for not having any internal controls on the overhead expenses of its partner organizations, the NGOs it's giving money to. It used to, before 2005, you could only get 80% of your money from the government. We took that off. We've taken it off every year.
Lots of ways to fix it. This is the wrong way to do it.
It's reasonable to look at this.
I agree with you on that.
It's reasonable to look at it.
There are smart ways to do things and there are dumb ways to do things. I have no problem with making programs better. I have problems with abandoning sick people.
All right, Van Jones, Elizabeth Farr Griffin, Brett Todd, thank you. Coming up, more breaking news. 2 key deadlines that potentially could lead to thousands of the